Hey you. Good morning, friends. I felt like I wanted to come and chat, and there was something I wanted to talk about, but it hadn't really the topic title hadn't really come to my mind. So as there is a slight glare to the sun, but as there's such a lovely sun this morning, I thought I would title this vlog "The Son of God." You know, I think this is the Son of God that they venerate in religion, but perhaps we are the Son of God, daughter, son. You know, in this case, I mean the same thing. There's no difference. We all have a solar plexus, the place of the sun. So male and female is all Son of God in this conversation. And God, again, if you've not heard me say this before, I use that term sometimes, but you know, Most High, or the Creator, or whatever we come from. Sometimes, you know, whatever created this, whatever creation we're a part of or connected to or the owners of. You know, so if I use that word God, that term God, I mean that with absolute reverence and respect to all the different names that have been used to reflect from whence we all come. It's always worth noting when there's a body of still water that body of still water will be provably level, kind of like a glass or a mirror. And not only will all of these puddles be level, but no matter how much water is in each puddle, one might have more water in, you know, have a sort of deeper lip or a higher lip and be able to contain more water. But all of these bodies of water would be parallel one with the other. And you know, if you've already rejected all of ball science, you've probably done all the research on things like parallel and exactly what they mean and so on. If you haven't, if you're still one of those who is clinging to belief in a ball, you've got to try and figure out how you can have parallel bodies of water, all of them parallel, provably, in your neighborhood, in your local area, as much as you can go, anywhere. And of course I always refer to the Suez Canal. You know, these are all parallel. Yes, there's a little bit of tidal movement up and down a few feet, bit of swell, waves, pressure, this sort of thing can change heights and in the surface a little bit, but really when it's still, it's parallel with every other body of water that we can find. In that case, you'll never have bisecting lines. In other words, you can never create something going round when everything is parallel. There's a game called Minecraft. I think Minecraft, maybe now it's changed, but certainly when my son was playing it as a youngster, Minecraft is all on the parallel. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I was sort of, I was going through some of the comments this morning on my YouTube account, and you know, it's worth saying that I am so grateful for some of the feedbacks in the comments and the people, you know, the amazing people that are listening to my thoughts. It's quite an honor, and it's quite humbling to know that there are some amazing minds out there, and some of them are stopping by to give me a little bit of their time and maybe sometimes make some comments, which is wonderful. And it really is kind of food for the soul, nourishment for the soul, because on the back side of that, or on the opposite side of that, is, you know, like the comments that come from the ballers. And I think my participation in some content over everything footage from last Sunday, Sunday before last, I should say, you know, that has obviously brought me and our message into the orbit of people who perhaps haven't heard this before, or people who are already sort of quite strongly and vehemently opposed to any challenge to the scientific dogma we were all taught at school. And you know, my performance on Sunday last was not something that I'm like, you know, I don't look at that and go, oh wow, I'm so pleased with that. I feel a little embarrassed, in fact, actually, when I look at that, because there is an element of rage or anger that is manifest in my unwillingness to, or my short shrift for the baying naysayers. What you don't really get a sense of when you listen to the Content Over Everything footage is that a lot of stuff that's said from behind the camera, and a lot of obviously looks and sneers and stuff, and you know, the ridicule that is coming at me when, you know, now is, you know, not picked up. And of course I'm like most people. Well, I mean, I was taught to go to war as a kid, right? And then after that, I ended up working as a doorman in the roughest club in Cape Town, you know. And you learn not to take too much shit from people. And as I was explaining to Andrea this morning, you know, the system took my little pure light when I arrived 50 years ago, 51 years ago this week. You know, friends, sorry about that, my friends. Somehow my phone just shut out the it shut the stream down, so I don't know whether this is a new stream or what, but let me go on from where I was and say that that we were all screwed up, as I said the F word and then my phone cut out. It's funny that's got to be a coincidence. I'm not saying that that's because I'm sure people are swearing all the time on YouTube. But I can do better. However, I think it's important to express the anger that we should all feel, the rage that we should all feel, that we have been so badly screwed over, so badly traduced, so badly poisoned, so badly misinformed, ill-informed, such that we do not know each other, that we hate one another, that we, as Pavlov says, all we've ever done is go to war with each other. You know, that's how countries are established, by war, and that's how it's all done, by war. Well, who runs those wars? Who organizes those wars? Who organizes the propaganda that creates the conditionality in people's minds to go to war? And it's that system that I am outraged with. But I do vent that, I suppose, on those people who come at me and want to defend that system and say it's impossible that we could be lied to. Of course gravity's real. Of course, you know, planes can fly under this ball and so on, you know. It's funny enough, actually, on watching back that footage, this particular one bit, I mean, Content Over Everything got at least 3 segments of me, and this is only one segment, and that was early in the morning as I arrived there, and I wasn't on the greatest of form, but it did expose something that's very useful, and I'll get to that. But you know, there is a woman that comes in, or a young lady that comes in on the footage at some point, and she's absolutely yelling at me, and I think the cameraman swung his camera around and caught that, which is why I know of it, because if I hadn't seen it on the video, I honestly would have forgotten about that. And that's true to say that in the context of, and even there's that skinny bloke, now I think about it, who comes shout, "Why is the moon flat? Is the moon also flat? Is the moon also flat?" And he's coming and shouting at me like that, and I forgot these things on my way home. I was like, yeah, that was it. You know, it ended up being a really good day with a lot of productive conversations and so on. But you sort of forget in the you know, it's a little bit like being at war. You know, you don't remember all the details. You're so focused on doing the thing that you're doing. You know, so it's instructive for those who are thinking about going out into the street and doing activism to see that, because you do get and I think this is something I felt now after this last Sunday, is that in the months since we started last year, you know, there are more people who feel empowered by these ridiculous chat shows that they watch on TV that tell them what to think. Pardon me. That they come shouting and screaming, bellowing things. So you think this, so you say that this is this, and as Pavlov, so you flat earthers say that the earth is doing this, and then that it's this and that and so on. So people are being primed to come and fight this ball thing on behalf of scientism. They're going to do it without their scientist masters. They're not going to get Brian Cox come and debate someone who's better at debating than me. You know, they're not going to get these people come out and, as I think Brian Cox himself said, was, oh, we don't have time to, you know, we're not going to even you know, deign to kind of answer these questions. I mean, they're so ridiculous. You know, science has already addressed all of these problems and all of these issues. You know, don't you know gravity and relativity, you know, completely, you know, addressed everything that we need to know. And what they don't grasp is how tiny they are and how massive the universe is and how huge my ego is and all this sort of crap. And so, where's the learning, you see? Because there has to come a point where we move through the anger. And what I think the system has always done, and the video that I made yesterday, which my good friend Lee from Flat Earth British Sub has said he's going to mirror onto his channel, which is a bit of a coup. You know, I asked the question about, well, I put this about the order out of chaos. I always sort of heard it in the way that David Icke has, you know, when 5 years ago, or David Icke 4 years ago, maybe, certainly not, maybe not 4 years ago, but certainly some time ago, David Icke would have been someone I thought, you know, I was listening to, and where, you know, aliens and things off planet and so on. And the moon rang like a bell and all that crap. Order out of chaos. And I'm saying now that it's really more that they don't want to actually bring order in the way that we would say order, you know, the perfect environment for humanity to thrive in. That's not the order they're talking about. What they're talking about is their fellowship, their Masonic order, their satanic order. I don't know. I'm really unsure about that. I was listening to Marty Leeds yesterday talking about, you know, Freemasonry isn't what we've been sold it is. It's not that bad. Well, maybe in the main it's not that bad, but for me it's about the order of the system of control, and Freemasonry is absolutely associated hook, line and sinker with this system of control. You know, it's like saying, you know, all government officers are in on it, or all scientists that work for NASA are in on it. Of course they're not. You know, all priests are in on it. Of course they're not. You know, they're just decent people going about doing a decent day's work in, you know, a belief system that they've taken on. And this system, unfortunately, is about creating chaos, because this order is about chaos as a means of fear, as a means of control. Chaos creates the means for control. Don't you get it? They never want there to be order in the way that you think of it. They want there to be chaos, such that you may cling to their order, which is nothing about making it humanity. Make the world a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. That's not what they're after. But as MJ, Michael Jackson, someone who I didn't idolize at all while he was alive, and nor do I do now, but I say that the lyrics, some of his lyrics I've gone back and listened to, and they mean a lot now. And if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Now, I have to look at myself, and I'm looking at myself Sunday last and saying, this is not how I want to communicate with my brothers and sisters of this humanity. I want to communicate with love, you know. I haven't quite got there yet. And you know, there's days, you know, this is my friend Joe said, you know, I'm conflicted, and Andrea reminded me of that. You know, this morning I'm conflicted because, you know, a part of me is in rage, and a part of me is knowing that love is the only way that this system works. And if there's an order to be had, it's through love. And I mean, you know, order as in the natural order. You know, the order of nature, not the order of Freemasons or Skull and Bones or whatever it is that George Bush Sr. was talking about. His 1,000 Points of Light speech in the United Nations. Exactly 10 years to the day before the Twin Towers attack. That's a coincidence, ball boys, isn't it? So, you know, I'm just wanting to reflect on that for myself, for you, because, you know, I think for most of us there has to be this journey through the various stages of what you know, they call it grieving, I suppose, the you know, grieving of a system, and or you know, and you go through that anger, why are they gone, or why are they dead, or why did they get killed, or whatever, and eventually a place of understanding or loving. But it's not a place of loving our captivity and loving our captors in some kind of Stockholm syndrome psychosis that I think that most people here are in. Someone said on my, I think I was referring to the magic of what do they call it, hypnosis, that we're put under, and some people are so well hypnotized. I was listening to something Joey Rocha said on with him when he was talking to Russian vids or someone the other day, I think, about that, you know, like there's this kind of disabled section or segment of people's minds, and, you know, are we to be angry with them for that? But I think it's important, as I said to Andrea, I think it's important that there is, there's funny shadows on my face, I think it's important that there is, we go through that process of anger and wanting to hold see, there's a fine line, isn't there, between calling for an uprising to say, let's go and fuck up the government for being such scabs, let's go and overturn the money changes and the banking system and so on. You know, there's a real temptation for that, and I think what the system wants is for us to get angry with each other, baller versus flatter, you know, and continue the fight that way, and continue to blame each other. Whoops. Sorry. Continue to blame each other, and continue to fight each other, or alternatively do the you know, do the other thing, which is to actually band together and seek to overthrow the system. But, you know, you overthrow it, you only can overthrow the system by force and with power, you know, if you try and take on the system in that way, I think. And that's never, violence begets violence, and it's never really been, it's not really a feasible option. In fact, they want you to take that option. They're almost gagging, please come for us, you know, because the moment you come for us, we'll bang you up so quick, you make your head spin, you know, and that's the truth of it. And not only that, we'll bang you up and make you look like you're the nutcase. You know, we'll call in the social services, the mental health team, and that's what they did when I went into the system last year, because they stole my plants, and they had the temerity to call in the social services to say that my mental health might be at risk. because I was saying things they couldn't understand. The mental health worker lady found me to be a very sane mind, although I didn't try and tell her that the earth is flat. But I do think that that me, if I'm this purpose of me being talking and me being afforded this opportunity last year and this year to get out and speak to people and show my own humanity and my own egoic journey through this, then there has to be that transition or that transformation visible to others who will come along this way. You know, Andrew said, you don't always have to be in Speaker's Corner, you know. And I agree with her. I don't think that I always have to be in Speaker's Corner. But there is a time and a place. And right now it's that for me. And the time will come when others better than I and perhaps better prepared than I will follow. I mean, you know, the first man up the Everest may have taken weeks longer than they might, you know, a half as fit person might do today, because the person today will have other knowledge based on what Shackleton, was it Shackleton or the other, anyway, Tenzing, that was his name, eh? That was the first man up. Anyway, Sherpa Tenzing, yeah, respect. So, you know, I think this, not only that about others coming, it's like, by the example of that first one, by the example of the first guy who went, then others will say, okay, this is how we can go too, you know. And I think that, you see, I've seen in this movement or this awakening group or whatever, I've seen various energies. Some of them are angry, some of them are loving, some of them are understanding, some of them are like calling for, you know, an uprising. And I'm not with the idea that we should be, you know, trying to fuck up this government. I'm not at all like that, and I said it, I don't know if it was filmed, but I said it out loud in Speaker's Corner. And I'm not saying that out of fear, actually, it's out of love, because I know that if we learn to embrace who we are and what we are, then eventually we will move to this point where anarchy seems very possible and plausible. But right now, you know, anarchy, if you took away government right now, then all the dogs that have been all wound up, ready to go to war, go steal, go and do whatever they do, raping men, you know, men who rape, you know, men who are so messed up that they have to rape children or rape people weaker themselves, women, whatever. People so starved of opportunity, people so bought into the gold is good, you know, everybody needs to be blinged up and drive the fanciest car, all of that kind of, that's weaponization of the ego, and all of that is part of our problem. It's part of the reason why we need police, because people are greedy like that. People are, you know, they're caught up in the 7 deadly sins, and while we remain that way, the system can justify itself. And that's why they want their chaos, because their chaos is their means of order, maintaining order and control. So that's where I'm parked right now. There's school children use this lane to walk up, and this is a fairly busy time. And if I drive my car down there, these children, some of them will look at me with such hate for driving down this lane. It is a road. I mean, it's not a thoroughfare. It's sort of like a shoehorn shape that goes around where I drop my son off at school. You know, parents have been sort of discouraged from bringing their children down here, and so I come quite early. It's before the children, you know, there's many of them. But now there's quite a lot. So if I drive down there, I'll have to endure these 15-year-olds staring at me, and younger. Some of them like will stay in the road as long as they can, so that you have to slow down. And you're only doing like 5 and 10 miles, if that, an hour down here, because you can't travel that fast. But you know, this is when I see these looks I get from these children, I think, jeepers creepers, you know, this is where we are at. There's no way these kids are ready for love. They're ready for fighting each other, eating each other up as they try and climb up the pile of corporatism. And they will argue and fight for the system. And I think the system knows that. It has all these people all lined up. So am I going to be, you know, hopefully in 10 years time, I'm not going to be standing in Speaker's Corner telling people that they've been lied to. Other people will be doing that. But I hope to have shown by my own example of how outraged I am, but that I am able to move through that rage to a place of love, because, you know, we come from love and we have to return to that love. And you will never return there while you keep fighting this system. Do I want the system to change? Yes. But first we have to look at the man in the mirror. We have to change ourselves, because we are so broken. We have been so badly poisoned, and you know, the vaccines are just the start of it. The sugar and, you know, the instant sugar rushes and the toxins in the food and the bullshit about exactly what we're meant to eat. I mean, my lord, it is such a minefield, you know. Keep it simple, I guess. Keep it clean. So I will quickly run through the comments as I I'll wrap this up. I don't want to talk for too long, and I'm 20 minutes in, and that was before the feed cut, so I know people have got busy lives and lots to do, and you know, I just want to continue to be useful. A spark. Zeitgeist, Son of God, Son is basically the same. I guess it's proven misinformation. Yeah. I mean, I watched Zeitgeist 5 or 6 years ago, I think, on Netflix, and it was a transformer. Although I agree, it's a controlled. It's definitely bollocks. You know, there's some really good thinking in that. I haven't watched it again. And maybe I should, with my eyes somewhat wider open than they were when I first watched it. You know, you see, I know we don't agree on this. I think you and I have spoken about this before, but you know, I came through pretty strong Christian upbringing to prefer science. For me, science and Christianity cannot sit side by side. There's even a group called the Christian Scientists I came across recently, a few years ago, and they're having a freaking laugh. You know, for me as a 10, 12, 14, 15-year-old, by then I was like absolutely certain there is no way that the Bible and science, as is taught with Darwinian theory and so on, can be correct. There is no way that they sit side by side. And you've probably heard me say this before, unless you're a newer subscriber, but I knew that the earth was I knew that the Bible was trying to tell us the earth was flat as a child. And that adults can't see that today absolutely blows my mind. But as I said, we have been damaged from birth. So for me, it was easy to reject the Bible for all of my adult life, because I was so bought into the science, you know, Darwinianism. Sometimes I remind myself the irony of arguing with people who are me. I used to argue for Darwinian science all day long, man, and I was more than happy to take that pretty BBC science girl, I forget her name, Dr. Kate someone, or Dr. Of course it's Doctor, she has to be indoctrinated to be able to be on, but you know, I used to take her sort of theories, and science now says that Australopithecus and Ardipithecus were, you know, before Lucy, and then after the monkey, and then there was a black man, and then out of Africa sprung 70,000 years ago, a bunch of people went over to China and became small and tiny, and then, oh my God, I used to buy that shit. And now I'm telling people that that's all a religion and it's all bullshit. But for me, science and this version of, some people still in the park arguing me, no, you can have Big Bang. I say to them, so you think You think the Bible is true, but Big Bang is also true? That there's a creator, but it needed a Big Bang that was just a lucky strike with a whole bunch of explosions that eventually, after billions of years, created a Goldilocks zone for this earth? See, that's a kind of intellectual dishonesty that I have very little time for. It's impossible for these to survive by side, and that's why I had so little respect for my religious leaders, because I was saying to them, listen, your book is telling you that the earth is flat, science is saying otherwise, what are you doing? Well, the book wasn't quite, these were simple people, they didn't know all this crap. How dare you preach on a Bible and say that it's, it's this part of it is right and this part of it is wrong? It's bullshit. I mean, I accept that there are absolute elements of the Bible that and I am conflicted a little bit about the Bible, because I'm reverential that there is a God and that there is possibly a word of God, that we've been given messages, and just like I'm giving people messages to this day now, I feel a little bit like inspired, such as someone who might claim to be talking from above, as it were, getting message from above. I don't want to over-inflate what I'm saying. But I kind of can get that. I'm willing to accept that there is a higher power, because I always no, there is no higher power. And this is the point I wanted to make, Spark, and anyone else listening, is that I did DMT. And I don't give a shit what the religious orders have told me about. It was the religious people that made me frightened of anything like mushrooms and so on. All of these things that open the mind and expand the mind in ways that are beyond a sort of material 3D belief. I was made to be fearful of these things coming up. And then yet, 46, 47, I find DMT opens me up and takes me from atheist to believer in a higher power in 5 minutes. Explain that. My mother couldn't accept it. Hear me when I say that. My dying, bless her, my dying mother could not get me to accept that there was a God. So I do DMT, and in 5 minutes I find that there's God. How dare anybody say that we should not do this? Shame on you. Shame on you, because for 46 years this system made me think that I was a monkey. Made me believe that I was a former black man out of Africa. I say this in Speaker's Corner. So you think we are all black from Africa? Is that what you... Because that's what science is making you believe. That we were monkeys and we were black and we were everything. Much respect to my black brothers and sisters, because none of us are from monkeys, okay? We are all created by the Creator, equal. Equal. Monkeys suggests hierarchy, right? Monkey, black, then white. That's what that suggests. That's fucking racist. Right there, I didn't realize it until this moment. Shit. And when I had the DMT experience, I experienced a love of a magnitude that I didn't imagine possible. And I experienced a connection to all things and everything that was beyond anything that my science dogmatists had taught me. Even my religious dogmatists, none of them had ever given me that sense of this oneness. Because, you know what? Every religion is a form of division. Every religion is mutually exclusive. And even as a child, I could say to my priest, so we're of the Christian, not even like the Muslim and other kind of denominator groups, but we're of the Christian group, and amongst us, we disagree so vehemently about certain aspects of Christianity that we don't sit with each other and break bread on a Sunday. What kind of child mind finds that to be acceptable? We are one, brothers and sisters. There is only one humanity, as far as I know. I asked this question about, they live, that possibility that there is a kind of non-human entity among us, and I'm willing to acknowledge that is a possibility, but I'm not talking to that entity or those entities. And I think that the majority of people that I encounter in my life are not those entities, if those entities do really exist. I think that the majority of us are simply broken. I mean, and I include myself, don't worry, I'm not saying I'm not broken. I'm not claiming like, but I know that I am a lot more eyes wide open than I was 4 years ago. And where I was 4 years ago was already quite an intelligent man who could have sat for hours talking about cosmology as given by Lawrence Krauss and Neil deGrasse whatever, and Brian Cox. I would sit around the table and impress people with, how carbon dating was used and the breakdown of the isotopes. And I remember this, my sister, I was sitting with my sister and her husband having a meal in a place called Umhlanga Rocks. This is probably about 2012, 13. And my sister said, shit, Dave, you should join Mensa, man. The stuff you think and talk about, it's like, what? My sister's like got a master's degree in education. But anyway, that's another story. But so, you should be, with Mensa and that, the stuff you think about. I didn't even know about flat earth. I thought we were all monkeys. Evolved from the slime pond of 4 billion years ago with water that happened to be shot in by asteroids. So I think we're all, mostly all of us are human. I think, is it possible that there's some sort of non-human entities and they kind of can feel each other out and stuff? Yeah, okay. Is there land that we don't know about further out on this plane? Yep, I'm willing to accept the possibilities of that. Or within, like as we go north of Sweden, no one knows what's going on north of Sweden, and yet that's only 65 degrees up the ball. There's another 25 degrees of mystery. And that's apparently all the way around the ball. So who knows? There's theories abounding about how it's possible that through different ages there's been different versions of us, and giants and more intelligent and more capable and so on. But the part about the love, the part about the humanity and so on, is for me is really what it's all about, and everything else offers seeds of division. So I'm careful not to get lost in seeds of division, because as I say, in the DMT experience I was given all this information, all this insight, and all of it came from love. There was a dark force there. I haven't spoken about the DMT experience in detail for a long time. Perhaps I should soon. There was a dark entity there. There was a dark force there, and as I've suggested, I think that it's possible that each of us has the entire spectrum from darkness to light. And the dial has been, or the resonance has been reduced such that many of us are in the dark. But I think most of us, or all of us, are capable of the light. And in doing what I do, I hope to bring myself to the light and others. Because, I don't know that it's in my lifetime or in this lifetime and so on. I can't be too invested in that. Would I love to see that happen? Yes. The zeitgeist thing, as I say, I think, there's some good theory there, but in reality, it's the man in the mirror. The problem is the man in the mirror. And now I think back on zeitgeist, I think, that's just like another controlled city, really. That's just like what we've got now, these sort of smart cities with their smart motorways and their smart this and smart that, smart meters to monitor every movement you make. Oh, you've passed wind, our little built-in monitor around Uranus has monitored, you're letting out too much gas. We're going to have to tax you a bit more for methane in the ozone and all that crap. Sorry if I got a little bit rancid there, my friend. Spark, that's not personal. I love you for being here and for contributing, genuinely. But I think we've been so messed up by our control system that, all of us cannot be sure when we think things and so on, and what we see isn't still resonating some of the lies that were permeated or impregnated into us. Because I've said this before, but this system always knew that the flat earth was going to come out. It was always intended. Everything that's happening now was always sort of known. They know this, and the succor I take from my Bible teachings is that all things are meant to be known in the fullness of time. And not only that, that the Creator, that God the Most High has got this, has got us, and has my friend Lee, Flat Earth sub, you know, and a few other people who've come out to bat with me and bat for me and bat alongside of me. You know, I'm so grateful. So I mean not to you know, upset, but I have to say what I feel, and yeah, I have to say what I feel. Yeah, I love everyone. Thank you. Oh, you guys having a chat about DMT? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I just, you know, I got to say that I was frightened by DMT. No. I didn't know about DMT until I did it. I watched The Spirit Molecule a few months before on YouTube, but it didn't prepare me for what DMT showed me or was. DMT is very frightening. I've struggled to do it again. It's not. Someone came at me in the park about it the other day. Actually, you know, why do some people say they don't, they've done it but they won't do it again? Because you know what, when you go and have a conversation with, even if it's in the antechamber, it's not the Most High, you're talking to one of the Most High's kind of, you know, emissaries that does it, you know, whatever, you realize, I mean, I've not touched any drugs since I did the DMT, by the way. I've not had any desire for ecstasy or cocaine or any of those things that I might have dabbled with in the past. That's 4 years ago, friends. 4 years ago, and I don't need those other things. I don't have any desire for them. And I'm in no hurry to do the DMT. I have done Changa a few months ago. I did it, and I was given a very powerful kind of message to go no further. So it was like, don't come here, you know, don't come here. So I feel like I've learned what I need to at this point in time from that. But when I came out of it, I said, wow, how come I've never heard of this? And why doesn't everybody get offered this at the age of 16? In fact, in African cultures, a lot of them do this. You know, at the age of 13 or 14, you go off into the forests and, you know, they give you mushrooms and various potions and stuff, and you go through these various rituals which show you, you know, the high spirits that we're connected to. And for me, I'm not saying that everybody needs us to realize that, but for me, everything that my religious upbringing taught me is a sham by comparison to what I discovered. And the honor with which I hold myself now is very much a consequence of realizing how important I and we and this is, and how connected I and we are to the Most High, to this Creator, to this creation. So I offer this information with love and with, you know, with God or good intent. You know, please know that if our controllers tell you that sugar is okay for you, or that aspartame is okay for you, then you know it's not. And if they tell you that something's bad for you, don't look there, then it's probably worth you taking a little look and working it out for yourself. Yeah, because when someone says, "Hey, don't look around the corner, don't look around the curtain," that's the Yellow Brick Road, Dorothy. What's it called? The you know what I mean. Wizard of Oz. Don't look behind the curtain. And if you've come this far and you're still hearing them say to you, "Don't look behind the curtain," I'm imploring you to go and look behind the curtain. For your sake, and you know, again, it's like I can't say who mustn't, and who mustn't, who doesn't, you know, and whether it's right for everybody. It's fair to say it's not necessarily right for everybody. It's not a do or die kind of thing, but to say don't try it because, you know, we've been warned against it, or, you know, as some yogis might say, hey, look, if you went to an ashram for 5 years and sat in the dark, you would have a similar experience, maybe even better. And I now know that because I was doing some stretching a few months ago, actually, and I had like this flash that lasted less than a second, but it was like in a
split second, I was taken back into the DMT experience where everything fractalized. It was only a split second, but it was like, shit. I gave myself a fright doing that. So I think it's possible to do that. I'm not dismissing those who can do it through those means. I'm not recommending overdoing it, because perhaps it's one of those things that, you know, like anything else, is your body creates its own DMT, but you can exhaust your own DMT supply. You know, that's on that. Our guns all well. Top side to guide them, yeah. That's tricking. Yeah, I mean, I came across someone talking about how you can build up your own DMT, you know, by, you know, there's ways of making your body produce DMT, and it happens in the sleep phase, and it's like what you do after the sleep phase and stuff like that. I can't speak too much on it, but I know that people are talking about that, and I think that's worth... The car's making a lot of funny noise. I think that's worth, you know, looking into for sure, because we should be taking care of ourselves in the most natural way we can. And I think DMT is running the risk right now of becoming, you know, like some popular, you know, thing. And I've heard of ayahuasca ceremonies that will be treated like, you know, some sort of McDonald's freak show. So I'm not for that, by the way. This is the most... This, for me, was the most reverential thing that I've ever done. You know, it was far more potent a moment for me than any and all of the church experiences that I've had in my lifetime, and any other religious kind of experience that I've had. So it was great. And then only a few weeks later, I think, I stumbled onto my first Flat Earth video. So it wasn't difficult for me to transition. Anyway, I think I've exhausted my myself with that little tirade. I'm sorry. I'm angry about the system, and then of course it's, you know, it's all these religions and all these freaking religious leaders who are, you know, sitting pretty in their vestry, you know. I did a short spell of work, 3 months, years ago, for a very large property management company called Jones Lang Wootton. They've changed their name. I think they're called Jones Lang LaSalle now, or something like that. They're all over the world. And these, at the very top of these kinds of companies, are the freaks who run this shop. I hated my time there. I felt like a rat in a cubicle. I wanted out from day one, pretty much, but I was kind of needing the money, and I stayed on for 3 months, but it was awful. And what I discovered when I was working there is that they were managing portfolios of properties so vast it would make your eyes water. And these property portfolios were owned by the church. Parish this, parish that. You know, and so there is a huge holding. I mean, the churches are always banging on about how poor they are. But firstly, they get all the Freemasonry, don't they? They get all the free buildings when they come back after a mud flood. They get all the beautiful buildings. And they get so much land and so many properties. I mean, really, it was just painful to be sitting there like a little rat in a cubicle, working through all these piles of paper, you know, like entering data onto a machine. Oh, it was awful. But for, you know, now I didn't really think about it much at the time, but in hindsight now, I think about how vast the holdings of these various you know, and then the church has sort of segmented itself into all these tiny little parishes. So you don't really see the vastness of the net until you start driving around. Oh, this is this parish, that's that parish, and there's a church and a dozen houses associated to the church, or owned by the church, or been passed on to the church by grateful widows over the years. And it's this god-awful network that is actually, you know, holding us all back intentionally. you know. And the best I can say about it is that they've, you know, their order is chaos, and the chaos that they can create by keeping people in a sense of lack is so powerful for them. But what I'll say, the best that I can say about that is that it forces us off the sofa, my friends. It gets us off our lazy backsides to do something about this, because I have to speak for myself on that when it comes to a lazy backside. But, you know, I'd kind of, at 45, I'd pretty much, no, I'll say at 40, before my mom died, you know, at 43 or whatever, just before she was, you know, I was kind of given up on, there's nothing, you know, science will hopefully one day find that there's life on the moon or on Mars. I was really, really eager for that to be, you know, in any sort of microscopic image of what seems to be a worm, you know, I'd, oh, look at that evidence that we, you know, life can exist off of this planet. I was, you know, you know, what else can I do? We got to leave it up to these intelligent scientists who know so much more than we do to try and figure it all out for us. What a load of crap. Those scientists, by the way, are the, I won't say it, but, you know, this is what people say, oh, so you think you're smarter than the scientists? The scientists are the guys who got A in class and continue to answer the questions correctly. The ones who don't become scientists are the ones who say, no, I don't buy that. Or they don't jive with that. But remember, you know, if you control the system so cleverly, then you've designed an education system that streams out those that are going to be your repeaters. And then, you know, funnily enough, it's not just because you're an A student. You know, you could be a Z student. You could be the dumbest student, right? And still come to Speaker's Corner and support the ball, you know. You don't know how it works, but you just know that cleverer the people than you have worked it out, so you just accept what they're saying, just like the religious believers. Anyway, I'm babbling and rabbling. You know, I think that I wanted to kind of give this message that, because I was reading through some of the comments on the Content Over Everything video, and I think it's unfortunate that they weren't able to splice the 3 segments of me talking to them and Pavlov together, because I think it was more cohesive, you know. And the Pavlov v Dave one that they put was like one of 3 conversations I had with him. I was hoping they would show him talking about how he can see airplanes coming over the ball. When you look out into the distance, airplanes coming towards you are coming over the ball, according to this guy. You know, and I try and explain perspective and so on. Another, you know, classic of his, I don't think it was on there, was, oh, but that was maybe on another one about the moon. Anyway, the more important point is that I know that I need to grow myself such that what I express is a more loving kind of thing. But it's important that I express the rage and the outrage, because we've all been screwed. And I think we deserve to know that. I hope you have a super day. Oh, I should say hello to anyone who has just come by to say hi. Is that Kill the Beast? Kill the Beast 1? Have you changed your name, bro? What does that say? We have only 2 true emotions, love and fear. Choose love every time. It's easy for you to say, Mr. Morocco. No, you're right, and the system knows that, and it uses fear of whatever, to motivate us to kind of, well, to change the vibration. Someone very kindly linked me to a little video of a tuning fork, and a guy messing with a tuning fork and showing how one tuning fork can set the other tuning fork off. Mess the one tuning fork up, and it messes the other, you know, it won't pass on a good resonance, or it won't pass it on a good frequency, and it messes the whole thing up. And that's what they want, you know. So it's all about putting bad frequencies into your environment, whether it be through the EMFs or the, you know, the stuff they spray in the air, or food, microwaves, meat that's been badly treated, or even food that I think that's been badly treated. You know, I think that the thing of when you're on the DMT and you see everything's a wave, then it doesn't really matter what you're consuming. It's all wave. It's really what that wave has been through to get to your mouth. You know, the more you cook it, the more you fuck with it in its lifetime. You know, and I genuinely mean that about plants too. You know, we know that Emoto showed us that you can change the structure of water just by being nice to it. So imagine that you're a greedy farmer farming with, you know, with ill intent and spewing shit all over your cabbages. I don't mean shit literally. I mean, you know, verbal, spiritual shit all over your cabbages. And the people who eat your cabbages are picking up that vibration. I'm sorry to say. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to make a case for eating meat. I'm just saying that it's all vibration and it's how we eat it. So thankfully my phone is going to run out of battery and I'll have to shut up as soon. They come in and chat, and I do enjoy that people are willing to listen. I have to say that, and I hope that's not my ego, but just I want to connect with more and more people, because I do feel, for now and first time in my entire life, that I am meant to be talking to people and I'm meant to be sharing this message. As a child, you know, I had a lot of preacher types, lay preacher types pay me attention. I think one of them wanted to pay me more attention than just. But anyway, that's another story. But you know, and because they were like, you should be spreading the word and stuff like that. Well, I never felt like I had a word to spread. There wasn't a word worth spreading, but I feel that there is now. And like any right-minded person, if you do not get angry about this, if you do not initially get angry about the lives that have been lost, the lies that have been told, the poisonings. Everybody knows someone who's died with cancer and died with some other condition that we now know are conditions that have been inserted into our system. That's aside from, you know, forcing people to work and pay 50% of their earnings through, you know, once you've bought the food, half of your money has been taken up in taxes. You know, that the banking system that supports the rich is making it harder and harder for every man and woman to have their own home. In fact, they have to give up 30 years, 20 years of solid work simply to own, at the end of that simply to have a roof, half decent roof over their head. Or miss a payment and you'll have it nabbed from you by the bank. So you know, it is an outrage. And if you're not outraged, then you're not really paying attention. But I'm not saying you have to be outraged. I'm just saying if you haven't gone through that stage of rage, of anger and so on, then you probably haven't really faced the beast, you know. I think you have to be willing to accept that or go through that. And I'm hoping that by my example, Andrew said you just don't want to be seen as a pussy or something, or because I said that this morning. You know, people are going to think, you know, I'm just some other pussy that's turned up to go, yeah, be nice and loving to one another, all kumbaya and you know, smoke the peace pipe and so on. No, because I'm not taking a left or right position here. Brexit has really made people take a left and right position. I was in a village yesterday and this woman said to me, this village I'm leaving because it is too white and it is too right. The whole political spectrum in this country, just like everywhere else, has been ripped asunder by these made-up kind of memes of Donald Trump's wall and Mexican this and European that and Brexit and Australians worried about, you know, migrants coming in on boats and all of this. Why was I saying that? You know, to be outraged. Oh, yeah. I don't, because, you know, because, you know, eventually I'm hoping that just, I so hope, like you're feeling like, shit, we are the light. We're meant to be the light and we're meant to show the light. So how do we get to do that? Well, in my case, you know, I've had to go through the things that I've had to go through, and I've spoken about some of my past, you know, and I haven't taken the pussy path for most of the time, although obviously I was becoming more and more house trained over the years by this system into my 40s. Then my mother died, which threw me back into my sort of combat mode when I was in the war. And then I started trying to unpick religion, you know, and in so doing, you know, I only entrenched my atheism, my dislike for you know, for the way that religion has made this world so riven, so divided. So I come to the flat earth truth, and jeepers creepers, am I angry with the masters, as it were, you know, the powers that are, you know. But then I realized, shit, you know, what they want me to be is angry. What they want me to be is to come and fight them, you know. That's what they want. They want me to fight them. They want you to fight them. And in so doing, continue to give away our true loving divinity. Stay in fear. Oh, they're coming for me, you know what I mean? And I've had a little bit of that recently with the various incursions with the police. And I've got a guy coming on my door next week, claims I owe them for £40,000 or something. I don't have any agreement with this company, but they bought my debt from the banks. Well, they bought the legal fiction known as David Mantle in capital letters from the banks. They want to try and get what they can out of me, and they want me to be fearful. And I have to meet them with love, and I think that my journey, some of it's has been recorded, hopefully for posterity, although this could be ripped down on YouTube at a moment's notice, without a moment's notice. Is to show other people that, you know, we don't have to be, we can be all the men that we are. We can be the men that we're meant to be, but without ending on an angry note, you know, coming through the anger and finding the love, coming through the fear and finding the love. That's what I think I think that's the challenge that we've been set. And not love in a blind way, you know. There's those people who you know, I have religious friends who are kumbaya and, you know, Maranatha, let's get together and, you know, clap hands and shit like that and be so happy with each other. But it's that kind of Stepford Wives happy. It's that banal, everything's okay with my religion and my shit happy. Well, wait till you've faced up to the truth about, you know, your government's poisoning you, your government's trying to shorten your child's life, it's trying to dumb your child down. It did the same for you, and it would have you die at a moment's notice, simply because it was trying to achieve a thing of control. It would have you go to jail. It would imprison your child for growing a plant. It would imprison your child for not paying enough slave taxes. It would have your child homeless and then stop kind people even feeding your child. And things are okay. Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Sunday is the greatest day given to God. Thanks be for this wonderful opportunity to get together. Bullshit. You are lying to yourself. Your preacher doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. I have respect for those Christian preacher types who are on YouTube who are banging on about flat earth, because they do so against the tide of the majority of preachers who will go, just like the pilots, just like the engineers, just like everybody else, I can't talk about this, or I'm unable to see this. Well, we ain't those people, you know, even though I don't agree with all the, you know, the Christian side taking, you know, it's my religion is still the right one. I don't agree with that, but you know, I do respect that they're swimming upstream, like all of us, and bringing the good news, which is initially feels like bad news, but it's bringing the good news to people that we are divine, that we are the one, that we are the light of God, of the Most High. We are the sons of God. I hope you have a beautiful day.